Good afternoon, everyone. It's such an exciting time for us to be here together today. And I want to find out at this point, before I keep going, whether everyone can hear me clearly. Do I see a yes in the chat box from among our participants who are signed up? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you, President Lloyd. Thank you, Past President Barbie, for opening our first digital summit on the theme of, if you've been looking at the posters, everyone, it's respond, reset, and restart HR in the new normal. And I'd like to find out how everyone is feeling in this session right now. Let's connect. Technology is a wonderful way for us to connect with each other. We don't need to be disconnected simply because we're not in the same venue. So I'm going to ask Jeffrey from the PMAP office. Jeff Palma is heading our IT team, and he's going to bring up on Mentimeter a question that I'd like everyone to answer. To do this, I'd like to ask everyone to go to www.menti.com and use the code 478615. The question is, what word describes how you feel as we face the new normal? We're people managers, and we want to be connected with everyone. We want to know how we feel collectively as well as individually. So this is our opportunity to see how we are right now. Tell us what word describes how you feel as we face the new normal. I see one word coming up. We have anxious. For those who are not able to access yet, please use the code 478615. We have uncertain, overwhelmed, tired, fearful, confused. Okay, keep them coming. And I'm so glad we're all being very honest, very open here. Oh, somebody said excited. Uncertain, that's right. Hopeful, we see a mix of positive and negative emotions coming up. It seems like overwhelmed is at the center, together with uncertain, confused, anxious. All right, do we have more? Stress. Yeah, I believe we're all feeling stress right now. Okay, right, we keep it moving. Right, okay, we have our world cloud being formed, and at the center seems to be the word anxious. But I see the word hopeful as well. I see uncertain, I see stressed, fearful, but I also see challenge, excited. So there's obviously a mix of emotions going on among all of us right now. We have 1,328 people registered for this summit. Right now we have 395 signed up already on Zoom, and we have more on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So is this it? Is this how we feel? At the center of all our emotions, I see anxious. Thank you for your honesty in sharing. As I go into my talk, we will understand more about how dealing honestly with our feelings will help us respond, reset, and restart HR in the new normal, coming from strength and optimism. As leaders, it is so important that we are in touch with our feelings, how we think, as well as how we are connecting with other people. Okay, we're gonna wrap up the word cloud now. At the middle, hold it right there, freeze it, Jeff. We see anxious, together with challenged, hopeful, and uncertain. 4 words, anxious, but underscoring it is hopeful, adjusting, challenged, tired, confused, scared, and uncertain. But to my left, I also see excited. This is how we are, and this is where we are right now as people managers. Let me share my slides with you so that I may bring a message to you that I believe would help us cope better with the situation that's facing us. I'm going to talk around the 3 themes of leadership, strategy, and change. As we think of how we face the new normal as HR leaders, These are three focus areas wherein if we are able to succeed in how we manage ourselves as leaders, how we lead others, how we help the businesses that we work with, our organizations to refine strategy, to cope and move forward with change as we reset HR. This will help us to operate effectively in the new normal. Good afternoon. I see Mr. Sobel joining us on screen. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the PMAP Digital Summit. It's our honor to have you with us today. I'm Lin Mukhi. I'm Vice President for PMAP 2020. At the same time, I'm Vice President for HR of FINMA, Philippine Investment Management Inc. So as I talk about my three themes in the next 10 minutes, let's talk about leadership first. Change can either challenge or threaten us. We're all facing major change in our environment, not only in the business scenario, but also in our personal lives. Change can either threaten or challenge us. It's your beliefs as a leader that will pave your way to success or block you. How we execute our plans, our behaviors, and the language by which we communicate with our people. These all come from the way we look at things, and as we respond to the new normal with a response that puts people first, it helps if we calibrate our own selves. How do we see ourselves right now as leaders? That's why I started with the word cloud, and I'm very grateful for how honest you have been in sharing that primarily our group seems to be experiencing anxiety, but underscoring that is optimism, feeling stress, but also the positive response of taking this as a challenge. The leader's way of being leads to the quality of results achieved. When we think about responding, we start from our mindset, how you think. How do we see this challenge that is upon us? Nobody expected this COVID crisis. We were caught unprepared. How then do you think should we respond? From that, let us be aware of our emotions so that we reset how we feel. Human beings that we are, let us be aware of the emotions battling within us. To put people first calls for compassionate leadership. To be a compassionate leader requires empathy. And to be able to exercise empathy requires a heightened awareness of how you are. Coming from that space, we will be able to say, okay, I'm aware of how I am responding to the situation, my inner struggles. I acknowledge this with honesty and humility as a leader. This need not block me anyway, because I can move forward with a reset start and make a conscious choice with respect to the actions that I'm going to take. Through self-examination, we are able to become more proactive and act from our values. The key to the ability to change is having that changeless sense of who you are, what you are about, and what you value. In FINMA, where I lead HR, we committed that above everything else, we will stand by our values of integrity, competence, professionalism, and social responsibility. From these values emanate our decisions. When the COVID crisis came upon us last March 13, we made an executive decision and we communicated it very clearly to our people. We will put people first. This decision came from our values of integrity, of keeping people whole, as well as social responsibility, making sure that we take care of the most vulnerable. HR took the lead in putting together protocols that by which we can operate on a business as usual mode, working from home, engaging our people, and conducting our business at the highest level of competence and professionalism. In our PMAP community, my call is for us to be more agile, to speak up courageously, to challenge our limits, and sustain our compelling call for leadership that puts people first in the business community. By this, we will actualize our aspiration to elevate PMAP in the new normal. Coming from that space, we will now redefine our strategies so that we might face the new challenges with competence, professionalism, and an awareness that we may not know what's coming up ahead, but we will remain strategic in our response, not allowing the situation to pull us here and there, but always looking at both the future as well as the present. There are two imperatives that we face right now. It's an imperative to the lives that we want to safeguard, and we face the imperative as well to safeguard our businesses. These two go together. Coming from an awareness of this, a risk-based response will allow us to safeguard our people and our businesses, to anticipate the threats, mitigate the challenges, and seek, two words I want to emphasize here, recover and discover new areas of growth and success. As we innovate, we will find that we are able to create jobs for those who might lose their jobs. We're looking at livelihoods. As organizations, we streamline the business. We will look at changing the organization structure. If we are very strategic, we exercise acuity in our decisions and responses, we can safeguard livelihoods and continue our quest for exploring new areas of growth and success. To do this requires proactive response strategies, and I offer here 3 strategic approaches which I believe can apply whether you're a multinational company, a local conglomerate, a small business, or even as an individual consultant, which comprises the PMAP membership that we have here with us today. 1, we can offer the same products, but look at different channels for distribution. As an example, we have seen how training companies and coaching are now delivered online. In PMAP, we have shifted very quickly to move the training seminars that we conduct in our building to webinars, and we have seen our reach go way up high, much higher than how we used to have the numbers attending our programs. Number 2, same infrastructure, different products. Mobilize the workforce that you have right now towards more relevant products. You know what comes to my mind here are those small businesses, the people who put together scented oils, spa, candles, soap. You know, this is a small business which need not fade out. Using that same infrastructure, same workforce who have the skills to mix chemicals, do packaging, they can be mobilized to now produce more relevant products such as sanitizers or alcohol-based healthcare products. There are ways by which we can be very innovative if we think in strategic terms, keeping in mind that our objective is to safeguard lives, safeguard the business. Third would be same products, but a different infrastructure. We acknowledge that as we move forward and we find our strategies in the businesses that we serve, there will probably be changes in the organization structure, as well as in our systems and processes as we seek to digitize. Technology is the way to go. We must digitize so that we make our processes more efficient to the work from home setup. A change in our strategies will mean adapting to the process changes, and we have said that agility is needed. And yet we find that we still have resistance to change no matter how urgent the situation is. And we wonder why. So let's talk about change. Slowness to change, I believe, is usually an indicative of fear of failure, fear of the new. Human nature wants to be successful. We need to maintain self-esteem. If we do not have confidence in our capability to innovate as we go along, that leads to slowness to change, rooted in the fear of failure in the new. But I tell you, friends, you know what? It's not the situation that poses the most danger to us. There is comfort knowing that not everything will need to change. That I firmly believe. If we exercise critical analysis, we will identify what to sustain and what to change. There will be disagreement, probably fiery arguments as we discern and try to find the best methods towards managing the change. There will be people who represent really the main dangers in this life. The people who want to change everything just for the sake of it, or to change nothing. My call is for resolute collaboration. We need everyone's minds. We need to be together as we reset the way we do things. Our call in PMAP is in that collective framework of response. It's people first. As we reset, let us be resolute in our desire to collaborate so that we may harness everyone's minds, everyone's knowledge in our community. We need to be one with our fellow HR leaders and our business heads. We need to be one as a nation. We need to be one in our humanity. From this reset, we will prove to ourselves that we are resilient. And this is my personal hashtag. Together we can restart, we can lead, we can be strategic, we can move forward and find both success as well as joys in this journey. Thank you everyone for being here, for your commitment to support PMAP, for your commitment to move forward with strength as people managers. Let us together move forward because together we can restart, and we do that by being able to respond with a people first commitment, collaborating with each other so that we will prove that we can succeed in the new normal. Thank you very much. I would welcome questions. Please feel free to put it up in the chat box as we move along, and I will respond to them as we move on in the program. Thank you, and back to you, Past President Barbie, for our next part of the program.
Okay, thank you very much, Vice President Lin. And of course, earlier we also heard President Loy. And in the midst of all these that are happening to us, and it's probably something incomparable to what we've always experienced in the past, the call for us in the first PMAP Digital HR Summit, respond, reset, restart. And what it really calls for as an imperative is to look into leadership, into strategy, into change management. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the PMAP Digital Summit kicks off with a keynote session today. The session will be People First Stewardship in the Time of COVID-19. Very specific indeed. And PMAP, ladies and gentlemen, we are indeed honored and we are fortunate to have with us our guest speaker, our main speaker for the afternoon. So may I now call back PMAP President Loy Echevarria to please do the honors of introducing our speaker.
Thank you, Past President Barbie. Our keynote speaker is the Chairman and CEO of Ayala Corporation, one of the largest business groups in the Philippines, with interests primarily in real estate, banking, telecommunications, and power. He is a member of various business and socio-civic organizations, including the J.P. Morgan's International Council and Asia Pacific Council and Mitsubishi Corporation International Advisory Council. He is Chairman Emeritus of Asia Business Council and member of the Global Board of Advisors of the Council of Foreign Relations. He also sits on the board of Singapore Management University and on various advisory boards of Harvard University. In multiple occasions, he was a recipient of various recognitions bestowed by the President of the Philippines for his contribution in public service. In 2017, he was recognized as a United Nations Sustainable Development Goals pioneer for his work in sustainable business strategy and operations. He received his Bachelor's of Arts in Economics, cum laude, from Harvard University in 1981, and Master's of Business Administration from the Harvard Graduate School of Business Administration in 1987. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lloyd Chavarria. Thank you as PMAP President. Thank you for this invitation. To Lin Mukhi, PMAP Vice President. I heard you earlier. Thank you also for this invitation. I'm just delighted to be here at this first digital conference. I think we're all adjusting to these new environments and new ways of doing things, and I feel very honored to be here on this first digital gathering. I think to a certain extent, the digital world and the fact that we're having to rely on it so much has in many ways opened up a whole set of new avenues for all of us to communicate and do things. Within the Ayala Group, as the head of our HR practice, JP Orbeta has said, we've been trying to institute digital parameters for some time now, but it took a crisis to get really everybody on board. So sometimes out of bad things come good things, and now the company is more engaged than ever before. But so delighted to be here and to share with you some thoughts, at least from our perspective. All of you are experienced practitioners in your field, and all of you have such a difficult job at this point in time, really ensuring that the workforce remains protected, but at the same time keeping them all engaged and productive. Such a tough thing to do at a time like this. And at the same time, I think more and more, we're beginning to see that we have to keep people healthy in a holistic way. It's also their physical and mental well-being alongside addressing their economic concerns. I can only talk a little bit about what we've gone through. I'm not saying that this is the only way to go about things, but when you were kind enough to reach out, and I discussed it with JP Orbeta in our group, I said, well, I'd be happy to share what we've gone through, which to a certain extent goes beyond the employees, but there's an engagement in really creating, I guess, a whole new playbook during this very, very uncertain time. But I must say, when I was told of the title People First, Stewardship in the Time of COVID-19, there was a strong sense of resonance because we had been feeling this as well within our group. And I'm happy to tell you a little bit about our journey. When the enhanced community quarantine was announced, our immediate concern was to see how we, as a grouping of companies with many employees, could really support the many stakeholders that surrounded us, especially those who would really see themselves as most vulnerable to the impacts of the pandemic. It was really quite an extraordinary set of events. And when we went into that hard quarantine, we all got together and said, what does this mean for everyone? Our employees, the individuals who surround us from an economic point of view, the people who support us, our customers. And many stakeholders have been our partners throughout the company's growth journey. And we wanted to contribute in ways that would address the many pain points that we foresaw would start to happen at this unprecedented stage, I guess, in our country's economic history. But we also saw an opportunity to supplement the many public and private initiatives that were ongoing to accelerate our country's recovery from the COVID-19 situation. This was a time we all felt where we had to work together and contribute to a sense of unity and common purpose in the way that we tackle things. Very, very unique time. So really within just a few days after the ECQ, our teams at Ayala Corp started brainstorming. And at the time, we formulated a three-phased group-wide response to COVID-19. Not so different from some of the ideas that Lin Mukhi was putting on the table before I came up to speak. The first phase was about re-entry, which covers really the first 2 weeks after lifting of the ECQ. We started to think through what would that entail. And this section and this phase was about keeping our employees and customers safe and protected in a moment of re-entry. The second part of the planning process was about resilience, which covers the next 2 months, centered on adapting our operation to minimize risks in a world where COVID-19 continues to exist. And finally, the period of transformation, which covers the next 2 quarters after that. Most of our efforts would be on innovation and reimagining what the future would look like for the industries that we participate in. How will people start to respond? How will people be selling products and services? How will the consumer be consuming? People, will they behave differently or not? So bottom line, we're trying to put ourselves in the shoes of our stakeholders, the wide set of them, both the ones inside and the ones outside the company. And towards this end, our teams have been making the rounds of each of our business units and talking with outside experts to understand the operational and stakeholder pain points, as well as gain a better understanding of the consumer shifts that are evolving. And I have no doubt that the world's going to be a very different place once we come out of this. So specifically, our group response is prioritizing at this point in time, protecting and engaging our employees, supporting our clients and partners, and bridging the needs of the broader communities around us. I will go through each of those segments in turn in my remarks today. But as our concrete expression of this commitment, as of May 19th, the Ayala Group so far has deployed around 6.5 billion pesos worth of monetary and in-kind support to our employees, our ecosystem partners, and the broader community. We decided to act quickly at this time when basically the whole economy had shut still. We believe that we succeed as a company only if we engage successfully with the many communities we interact with, and if they, in turn, continue to prosper and grow. We cannot live without each other. We're a cohesive unit, and recognizing this ecosystem that interacts with each other is vital to finding solutions for all of us to get out of this situation. So it was important that we contributed in ways that would help preserve trust with these communities and eventually re-engage these communities during this time of challenge. So let me touch on each of these communities briefly, one by one. And let me start with the first pillar of engagement, namely protecting and engaging our employees, which I think is probably the most important one to all of you. JP Orbeta and the Ayala Group HR Council, we have members of HR Council from each of our Ayala Group teams, adopted a protect, prepare, plan approach regarding our workforce, which mirrors our three-phased framework. Our HR response was to protect our workforce, prepare for re-entry, and plan for the future. As we were thinking through these components, we asked ourselves key questions, both on the defensive and on the proactive side. We also thought of measures to keep our people safe, regardless of the status as either direct employees or day laborers, while maintaining productivity. For our customers, we likewise prioritize safety, but overweighted our communication with them to find ways to support them moving forward. With respect to our operations, we continue to find ways to minimize costs and mitigate risks amidst this pandemic, but have also kept an eye on the future and on how we may have to pivot our operations during and, of course, after the quarantine. Our first intervention, initiated just a few days after the declaration of the ECQ, was to ensure the financial security of all our employees. We felt that the first insecurity that they would have is what happens to our jobs? Will we get paid? If the economy is grinding to a halt, what will happen to us? So we immediately allocated a total of 2.4 billion pesos for an emergency response package covering wage continuance, leave conversions, and loan deferments to both our direct employees and our partners in contractual or no work, no pay arrangements. This has since increased given the many company and employee-driven initiatives across the group. And in many ways, the no work, no pay and contractual component, I guess, of the ecosystem that surrounds us were particularly vulnerable, as you might expect in a time like this. We also prioritized our collective health as a group. Our healthcare company, AC Health, quickly mobilized to develop appropriate health protocols for employee protection and re-entry. This is in addition to the several other health-related initiatives that I'll touch on later. One of our major protection initiatives involves what we call our 4 T's. Triage, to minimize exposure and risk of our employees and frontliners, including our own medical professionals. Testing, to screen and detect infections early. Treatment, to provide access to medication and prevent death or complications. And finally, tracking, to control the possible spread. On triage, we, just starting with that, we established a dedicated consultation hotline for Ayala employees, our dependents, and our ecosystem partners. We complemented this with Health Now, an online teleconsultation platform that connects patients with doctors. Health Now is currently free to access for the public. We've made it available and it's recently been announced, with a mobile application to be launched in the next few weeks. AC Health also provided extended frontline services through our network of 51 family doc clinics, 6 Healthway specialty clinics, and 720 Generica drugstores that remained in operation during this period. Let me also add that AC Health continues to look out for patients whose treatments were disrupted by the COVID emergency. A few weeks ago, we repurposed our Healthway clinic in Greenbelt as a specialized cancer unit. This was meant to provide oncology patients with some peace of mind that they will receive their treatment in ideal conditions and safe from the risk of COVID-19. People forget that the many other needs continue despite this crisis. Moving on to the testing side, we've already started our group-wide employee testing program utilizing a combination of the rapid antibody testing and the gold standard, the RT-PCR, for confirmatory tests. So far, we've tested a total of 3,400 employees as of May 21, with a target of expanding this to our 18,000 frontliners across the group. Our other business units are likewise formulating additional testing protocols for their employees and perhaps even their dependents and suppliers, which will add to the total number of tests that our group will be able to complete. Let me also note that Family Doc and Healthway will soon offer corporate testing services to interested companies in the coming days. Moving on to the treatment side, area number 3, we converted Qualimed Hospital in Nuvali in Santa Rosa into a COVID referral hospital for Ayala employees and other stakeholders. I think you can see it in the picture on your screen. Part of this package includes the construction of a biosafety level 2 laboratory capable of COVID testing, expanded wards and ICU facilities, and additional manpower that will be provided appropriate compensation, protection, housing, and of course, transportation at a time like this. As a quick aside, and we're quite proud of this, another notable development, the efforts of IMI, our electronics manufacturing group. IMI was recently granted a license to manufacture here in the Philippines a low-cost ventilator to augment the limited supply of breathing machines that we now have. We're currently in dialogue with local medical practitioners to see how we can best use this solution in our local hospitals. And lastly, just a quick note on tracking. We have likewise developed protocols and guidance for quarantine, for surveillance, and a follow-up should our tests yield positive results on employees. Of course, these protocols take into account patient safety and privacy. So as we address the health and economic concerns of our employees, we've also been exploring several ways to maintain a high level of engagement and productivity, of course, vital at a time like this, as well as opportunities for employees to retool themselves or enhance their existing skill sets. As with many of you, we've also adopted a structured work from home arrangement for the majority of over our 56,000 employees to keep them all safe. We continue to leverage various digital conferencing and collaboration platforms from Zoom to Microsoft Teams to Google to WebEx, applications I'm sure that all of you within PMAP are already quite familiar with. Our learning and organizational development team also offered a set of online courses via the learning platform Coursera to Ayala Corporation employees. The courses covered technical topics such as financial modeling, performance management, business strategy, and also special interest topics such as creativity and workload management. It's a time where people are beginning to use self-appointed time to continue learning, and we wanted to make as many tools as are existing at this point in time available to them for that continuous learning environment. We also conduct weekly virtual town halls where Fernando, my brother, and I, along with our executives, go to get to dialogue directly with our colleagues. In between these town halls, our HR team hosts special seminars on fitness, cooking, mental health, and we've even had some musical performances with the group. Bottom line, communication is of vital importance at a time like this. And we've used whatever digital mediums we can to keep that communication alive. I personally have been touching base with our employees much more now than ever when times have been normal, and I think it's been helpful and appreciated. Perhaps most significantly, we're also revisiting proposals on cross-company talent mobility. We've actually been exploring this space for many years now. And I guess the other upside of this pandemic is an acceleration of developments also along this front. Perhaps as a parallel to what we're trying to do, and I use here Singapore Airlines as an example, they have recently redeployed its grounded cabin crew to become health and safety ambassadors in subway stations, and even nursing assistants in low-risk areas in hospitals. It's a great example for all of us of retooling and reconnecting people in new areas of responsibility. In our context, we've seen a drastic slowdown in certain industries. Tourism, for example, is one which has pretty much dried up during this difficult period. But at the same time, there continues to be increased demand for roles related to health services, to customer relationship management, and logistics, among many others. Some industries have come down, but others have opened up and grown. We're looking at options to redeploy our executive talents that have the capacity and interest to our other companies that have an immediate need for additional manpower at a time like this. This cross-company movement and project marketplace that we're developing, we hope should address the economic concerns of our affected employees, optimize our productivity, and provide new avenues for learning new skills at a time like this. Now let me move on to the second pillar of our COVID response, which is really all about supporting our clients and partners. These days, we're part of a strong ecosystem, and success for them and for us really depends on a mutuality of spirit and a commonality of objectives. Aside from our employees, our many economic stakeholders have been absolutely critical partners of the Ayala Group. Ayala would not be where it is today without their support and engagement. Thus, we made it a key priority to provide critical and direct support to the very stakeholder ecosystem that have helped us become successful. Towards this end, our business units implemented several support activities for their clients. For instance, as of May 15th, the Ayala Malls Group have so far shouldered about 3.4 billion pesos worth of rents from our tenants in order to allow non-operating stores to likewise care for their own employees. BPI, Manila Water, and Globe Telecom, meanwhile, have all implemented extended grace periods for loans and bill payments. This is on top of the provision of drinking water and hygiene kits to our frontliners and personnel at checkpoints, as well as free and unlimited internet services to several hospitals. Several employee donation drives continue, as well as engagement campaigns for our customers who may want to contribute to relief efforts as well. This was a united effort, and we managed to get everybody engaged in this process. One noteworthy initiative in support of our clients and partners is an initiative that we just launched just last Friday, as called the Ayala Enterprise Circle. This is our platform to support the over 250,000 micro, small, and medium enterprises that are part of the ecosystem that surrounds the Ayala Group. With the goal of educating, connecting, and enabling SMEs, the Ayala Enterprise Circles initiatives cover exclusive product offerings, master classes, expert mentorship from industry leaders, business matching, and co-marketing opportunities, among others. And lastly, let me share some developments in our efforts to bridge the needs of the broader Filipino community, that third component, I guess, of our engagement at this time. Notable initiatives are Project Ugnayan and Damayan, which was a collaboration of over 50 of the country's largest business groups in partnership with the Philippine Disaster Resilience Foundation, Caritas Manila, the ABS-CBN Foundation, Jollibee Food Aid, and the Asian Development Bank. Through the project, critical food assistance was provided through vouchers to 2.5 million economically vulnerable families in the Greater Metro Manila in a direct, targeted, timely, and dignified manner. Let me just share that Project Ugnayan, actually, we believe is an excellent model of private sector collaboration and synergy at a time like this. We were just astounded by the results. Within just one weekend and a few phone calls, the business community was able to assemble a significant amount of funding to drive our aid efforts, which only continued to grow as the days went by. Our collaboration model with Caritas Manila and the different parishes ensured the success of the initiative at the time. The local parishes not only had the grassroots infrastructure to directly reach the beneficiaries, but also had a deep understanding and good rapport with the local communities, absolutely vital. We were able to deliver the aid in an efficient and dignified manner, thanks to their network. The use of vouchers also gave our beneficiaries the flexibility to select groceries that were relevant to them and ensured that beneficiaries did not need to wait in long lines anymore, exposed to the elements and with possible risk of infection. This was a great exercise in collaboration for a common cause. And the whole spirit of Bayanihan was so readily apparent right from the very beginning. We were just astounded at the way people came together for a cause like this. Aside from this, Ayala Land, Globe, AC Energy, Manila Water, IMI, and AC Health also partnered with the DPWH and the ICCP group of Gili Luchanco to convert the World Trade Center into a 502-bed quarantine facility. This project was completed in just 7 days at the height of the crisis. We've also been active in constructing swab test facilities for the government to further assist in our testing efforts. And speaking of AC Health and testing, I already mentioned the conversion of Qualimed in Nuvali into a COVID referral and testing facility. In addition to this, we're also building 4 more COVID testing facilities in strategic areas in Luzon and in the Visayas, in partnership with Qualimed and the Tropical Disease Foundation, a nonprofit organization focused on preventing the spread of infectious diseases in our country. Notably, AC Health, as part of a broader public-private initiative to expand our national testing capacity to 30,000 tests per day, called Project T3, which you may have heard of in the government's daily briefings. This coalition includes the Department of Health, the Philippine Red Cross, other large corporate groups, and other major medical groups such as St. Luke's, Makati Med, Medical City, and Asian Hospital. The initiatives I mentioned are just some of the ways where we in the Ayala Group have tried to adapt and meaningfully contribute amidst this continuously evolving emergency. There is absolutely no playbook for us to refer to in this situation, but we continue to learn and adjust as the days went by. Most importantly, I think at a time like this is the importance of unity, whether you're a private institution, a public institution. It's just so important that we all learn to work together and act in unison at a time like this. Most of our lives, we all live in disparate groups doing our own thing, competing, being part of the private sector, producing products and services where we try to outdo each other. I've never seen a moment when all of us have to use a completely different set of skills. Ones of unity, ones of cooperation, and ones of cross boundaries between the private and public sector for a common good. And I think to a certain extent, this has been very much apparent during this crisis. So as we all move forward towards recovery, let me emphasize again that in the face of COVID-19 or any future emergency, placing people first, of course, is of the utmost importance, something that's not new to all of you at this PMAP gathering. The success of our enterprises and the value of our tangible assets and intellectual capital are all tied to the welfare of the employees and the communities that all of us serve in our different ways. To reassure them of our support and give them peace of mind in the face of great uncertainty, I believe, is a fundamental responsibility of any organization. Ultimately, our successful recovery from the pandemic relies on supporting each other and working together towards shared growth and progress. And with this, I end my remarks. I wish you all continued strength of health and spirit during these difficult times. And let me congratulate PMAP as well. Over the years since I started working back in 1981, I'm 61 years old now. PMAP has been such an important component, I guess, of the environment that I've lived in. I know it's been a great source of support and intellectual capital to all the HR practitioners of our group, and a great source of leadership as well, at a time when our workforces continue to evolve and the needs of our human capital in many ways continue to change. Thank you for the leadership that you've all shown, and delighted to have been with you here today. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful presentation, Mr. Sobel. Maraming salamat po from all of us in PMAP. And certainly would like to thank you for giving us your time and such an awe-inspiring showcase of putting into action what you would refer to as people first and true stewardship over our people. Maraming salamat. Ladies and gentlemen,
PMAPers. Barbie, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity.
There you go, and give Mr. Sobel a resounding applause, not only from different parts of the country, but different parts of the world. A global applause for Mr. Jaime Augusto Sobel de Ayala. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Barbie. Thank you again to everyone. Take care.